Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Caribbean Women Empowerment Summit. We're excited to have you. This is a vision that I've had where I envision bringing women from all Caribbean backgrounds together so that they could be empowered, inspired, and motivated. And I knew I couldn't do it by myself. So I reached out to my dear friends, Natalie and Martine, to join me in this journey to really come together so that we could come up with a platform to bring all Caribbean women together as a collective. So welcome to our summit. Welcome to our journey and welcome to our collective. I am Rachel Sylvain Spence. I am your master igniter. What do? I ignite your inner motivation so that you can take action in your life, so that you don't sit behind your intention, but you move through your intention, so that you could own your voice, stand in your truth, and show up for yourself authentically. So welcome to this summit and let's get this day started.
Rachel and Martine, it's such a pleasure to be with you today to celebrate International Women's Month. And today, I'm so excited as we will be talking to women from the Caribbean around their experience with gender bias and how we can break the bias together as a collective in the near future. My name is Natalie Mark Charles, and I am a career strategist, and I help working mothers uplift their career to fit their lives.
This is so great. I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for tuning in as well. Remember, this summit is happening right now for the next 30, 40, probably hour. And so at this point, what you need to do is a couple of things, right? I want you to click that share button right now. Share this summit on your Facebook page because guess what? We will find out that you did. And when you do that, we are going to give you something, right? We're for taking that step. It's important for us, for you to share this movement. Why? Because simply Caribbean women are doing so much work, and you will get to see, like Natalie shared, in the conversations that we're going to have, so many powerful women that are from the Caribbean doing the work. And I'm sure you watching, you're probably decided to come to this summit because you are from the Caribbean. And in fact, if you are from the Caribbean, in the comments, tell us which country in the Caribbean you are from. I am from Haiti. Natalie's from Haiti. Rachel's from Haiti. But guess what? In the summit, right, ladies, we have women from St. Lucia. Women from where? Tell me. Rachel.
Puerto Rico. Trinidad, everyone is coming to join us to really take part in this amazing summit and really change the narrative around women, about gender bias. We're going to break that bias. Let's just do it, lady. We're going to break that bias, and we encourage you to join us and stay with us the course and really pour into yourself. This is the time for you to pour into yourself. So take a seat back. Get your glass of something to drink, whatever you need to do to feel comfortable, and allow yourself to be present in this moment with us and take in all that we have to share and continue to be part of our collective, because there's more to come from this amazing, amazing venture.
And I just wanted to add, listen, as you're listening, again, remember to share this. Tag a friend, right? Tag your Caribbean Betsy, best friend. Get everybody on board with this. And by the way, Rachel, myself, and Natalie are going to be behind the scenes answering any questions that you may have. If you are interested in participating in this movement, this collective of Caribbean powerful women helping one another uplift each other, what you need to do is share in the comments the word collective, okay? That is how we all going to know that you have expressed interest in some shape or form to participate in this movement as we begin to launch it, right? And start it. And we want to do it with you. And so with that said, listen, I didn't even get a chance to introduce myself really quickly. I'm so excited about the summit. I'm just so truly honored to have you watching this. Listen, you have a lot of choices on social, but you've decided to join us, and we take this seriously because this conversation needs to happen, right? And it's not just for women Day. As we know, this is beyond. This is for our children. This is for our sisters, our cousins, everybody, right? And
The
so,
men in our lives.
right. And so, what I do want to share with you that I am a social media content coach. I will be showing up to talk to you a little bit more about that, as Rachel and Natalie also are going to join to talk to you about what their expertise is in helping you. But all in all, I just want to take a step back and end with this. Enjoy the summit. Make sure that you put in the comments collective, the word collective, because this will be a trigger for us to reach out to you, right? To reach out to you, to hold your hand and pull you in this wonderful collective. And so put the word collective. Let us know which country in the Caribbean you're from, because we want to celebrate you. Share this broadcast across as many platforms as you possibly can. Tag your friend, because we'll take notice of this. And when you do, we'll have something special for you for doing that. And so with that, I'm done. I'm ready for this summit, Rachel. Anything else?
One more thing. I was like, I gotta say something more. Let's not forget our young men, your young boys in the men of our lives. Bring them with us. Let's learn together. Let's grow with one another, because that's the only way we can start changing the narrative. So bring everyone you have in your space. Encourage them to take part in this summit and learn and grow with us as a collective.
I am thrilled to introduce Fedora Pianui. Fedora joined the humanitarian sector after Haiti's devastating earthquake in 2010. She returned to Haiti after 10 years of living abroad. She is a public relations and communication strategist who has been working for nearly 20 years in the education field. She worked as a public relations professor at the University of Notre Dame in Haiti, and she is currently the Advocacy and External Engagement Director for World Vision Haiti. Fedora is the founder and director of Impact et Influence, a career coaching, leadership consulting, skill training, and communication services firm. I am thrilled to introduce Shermalin Cedoni Jones from St. Lucia. Shermalin is an international marketing lead for a multi-million-dollar company and a certified personal brand strategist and knowledge broker blueprint for corporate and business women in leadership. She specializes in helping them build a powerful presence online as global influential leaders so they can increase their influence, impact, and income beyond corporate with an irresistible personal brand. She has over a decade of experience in marketing, brand building, and launching several successful companies and events for international brands while working in the telecommunications industry, including HBO, Manchester United FC, the NBA, and BET, generating millions of dollars in sales revenue. As the founder of the influential Bold Lady methodology, Shermalin key differentiating factor lies in her ability to combine her knowledge and expertise with her deep emotional instincts that helps her identify unique traits in people and brands. She helps her clients use these traits to get visible winning hearts and minds while serving others, thus creating unique and irresistible personal brands. I am thrilled to introduce Dr. Glory Mar Yaravona. Dr. Yaravona was born and raised in Puerto Rico. She completed her undergraduate studies from the University of Puerto Rico, Marioli campus, with a bachelor's degree in biology and obtained high honors. She continued her studies in the University of Puerto Rico, Recinto de Ciencias Médicas, dental school, and graduated in 2005 cum laude. Committed to learning new technologies in the dental field, she decided to move to Florida and complete a 2-year training in advanced education in general dentistry at Nova Southeastern University. And in 2009, she culminated studies in endodontics from Nova. Her passion for learning and excelling has continued by becoming a member of the American Dental Association, the American Association in Endodontics, and the American Association in Aesthetics. She has mastered the use of dental operating microscope, ultrasonics, and rotary instrumentation by also providing her patients Botox and derma fillers treatments. She's been married to Dr. Francisco Oliver since 2005, and they have 3 beautiful children. Together, they own 2 state-of-the-art dental practices where their passion and love to help others in all their dental needs is noticeable. I am thrilled to introduce Gilda Nicola, psychologist, author, philanthropist, thought leader, humanitarian. Dr. Gilda Nicola is professor in the Educational and Psychological Studies Department at University of Miami School of Education and Human Development, and a clinical psychologist with over 30 years experience working with women, children, and families. She's the Secretary General of the Caribbean Alliance of National Psychological Association and co-founder of IT Community Trust. As a multicultural Haitian American and multilingual psychologist, speaking French, English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole, her work focuses on the integration of race and culture and well-being for ethnically diverse and immigrant communities. She is the developer of Soul Sister, Black Women Wellness, a program focusing on the well-being of Black women in the areas of emotional, physical, relational, and spiritual well-being. She is the author of several books and published numerous articles and book chapters and delivered numerous invited presentations at the national and international conferences. She is the recipient of several awards and has made appearance in CNN, BBC, and NPR. Introduce Marioli Fiendor. Marioli migrated to the United States at the age of 8 months from Havana, Cuba. She is married 25 years and have 2 beautiful daughters. Marioli has had a career in corporate America for 38 years working at the UPS. She's currently a human resource business partner.
So hello, ladies, and thank you for being part of this panel with us in the Caribbean Women Empowerment Connection Summit. And I'm excited to talk about gender bias and how do we break away from gender bias. So without further ado, I'm going to start asking questions. And the first question will go to Dr. Nicola. How do you define gender bias?
Wow, what a way to get out of the gate, right? With a question, right? And so first of all, I think it really is important to sort of like define the term gender, right? Because we oftentimes mislabel that with sex, right? So sometimes when we're talking about sex, we refer to gender as opposed to sex differences. And I think it's important to understand because gender as a term is a social construct, which means it is socially constructed in terms of how we think in terms of gender. So because of that, there are certain aspects of who I am as a woman in a society that particularly treats us in a particular way versus others, right? So it's that irrespective of the sex difference that we're talking about. And so when we're talking about the bias that exists as a result of gender, we have to take a look at the society and the power structure and the inequality that exists within structures, within systems, within societies, because sometimes we think it's an individual component, right? But that individual is embedded in a larger society that seeks to deem a particular group of individuals as A, B, C, or D, whatever that is. So then they defined us based on our sex, right? And not necessarily in our abilities and capacities, right? So to me, that the bias that we're talking about, and when it comes to gender bias, is all of the elements, which means it exists in every corner of that society in which we are in, where issues of power, where issues of equality, where issues of liberation is a central part of that. And so it will be hard to say, well, you see it in the corporate world, right? Marioli was talking about being in the corporate world. I'm like, yes, it's there. It's in the education world. It's in the healthcare world. It's in the dentist world. It's at the gas station. It's at the supermarket. Right. So because it is so societal focus, right, it means that we need to take a look at this from a systems perspective from a societal perspective in order for us to even begin to tackle the issues. So here we are, this powerful group of women coming together on this particular day because we get a chance to change that narrative. We get a chance to change that perception of what does it mean to be a woman in this particular society. How do we not have a single story of who we are as women in a society that seeks to define us as a single story, right? And how do we understand the intersectionality of all of that? I mean, I was listening to you guys, introduce yourself as the power bosses that you are. But Shermalin come on and she's like, power boss ladies, that's who we are. And she come in, and you're like, but I'm also married, but I'm also have kids. I also have all of these things. That intersectionality gets lost when we're talking about the gender issues. The last thing I'll say, and I know my time is short, is the word bias, right? And the word bias is about understanding we're talking about unconscious stuff. Biases are not conscious, they are unconscious, automatic, what we refer to as thought bugs, thought bugs that are there. So there are things that people do to us and expect of us or think of us that they're not even consciously aware of themselves. And so we get, by virtue of these things here today, we get a chance to actually get into the psyche of the person to say, I need to change these thoughts, these bug bites in my head about what does it mean to be a woman in this particular society, and not just for our counterpart, but it's also for us as well, because we hold those gender biases about ourselves, right, as well, because they're so societal based. With that, I'll stop.
That was a whole lot. Thank you. Thank you for that. Anyone has any thoughts that they want to share based on what Dr. G just mentioned?
I do. I mean, that was powerful. Let me tell you, we have a business resource group that we call BRGs, and I'm going to invite you. And she absolutely right. A particular definition of how society views male-female roles, right? That has been established. And as you said, it can be in corporate America, it can be as a dentist, it can be wherever you go. There is a role that we are seeing to, I don't want to use the word fit, because that's not the word, but I'm sure that we can figure out the where they placed us. Let's use that word. So I couldn't agree with you more. That was awesome.
Thank you for sharing. So that leads us to our next question, and I'll throw the question at Fedora. Have you experienced gender bias?
Well, I'll start with that. I'll dare you to show me a grown woman who hasn't, right? Or wait, I dare you to show me a little girl who hasn't experienced gender bias. Especially growing up in a patriarchal society, it's very hard to escape it. It's everywhere, as Dr. G just mentioned. I've experienced it in my childhood when I was expected to help cook Sunday dinner, while my twin brother was allowed to sit back and relax to enjoy soccer games with dad. So there's a real trauma linked with me being reluctant to cook. And when I was able to voice my choice, I was blessed to have parents that were okay with me choosing soccer over cooking. I continuously experience it in my womanhood, whether it's in the little things like getting overbearing parking guidance or instructions when I reach a place in Haiti, as I drive all the way from home to the place, and magically when I arrive, I lose my ability to park my car. And people men kind of are very overbearing and very, insisting on how to park my car. Gender bias is in the little things, it's in the big things, it's also in the subtle things, and when we look at gender bias, we need to understand, like Dr. G just mentioned, that it also comes from our own perception, our own self-awareness, right? I want to challenge the panel today to think, because this is a conversation that I had with Natalie earlier. I want to challenge the panel today to think about the word passion and how passion is associated with emotions and feelings, and yet it is a word that's ascribed to qualify women who are committed and dedicated and focused and serious. So today, I want to kind of invite the panel, invite everybody who's listening in to start questioning these words that are gender bias infused. And if we're looking to break the bias, we need to look at how to start breaking it in the big ways and also in the little ways, such as choosing the correct word to describe your purpose. You know, for me this year, I kind of selfishly committed to not being described as passionate anymore, and it's not because it's a bad word, it's because it's not the most correct word that qualifies me or what I do or the purpose that I have in my life and the work that I do. So I want to challenge everyone to think about words like having grit and determination and commitment and engagement, instead of just being passionate and being linked to emotions and feelings when it's about something that's so serious and so close to what my calling and my purpose is.
Thank you so much for sharing. Any one wants to share a thought? And
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I remember having this conversation with Fedora and never actually digging into that word passion. And after that conversation, I actually had it with Martine and Rachel to say, you know, I never thought about that. It was very gender specific. I don't recall ever describing a man's purpose or want to be better or success as passion. It was always really around women. And I didn't realize that until talking to Fedora. In experiencing gender bias, I actually didn't pay attention to it until I was asked in an interview once if I had constraints to doing my work. And I said, no, I mean, I have the education, I have the experience, I don't have any constraints. And the gentleman said, are you married? I said, yes. And he said, do you have children? At the time I had 2. And he said, these are constraints. And I said, I've actually never considered my family or my role as a mother to be a constraint. On the contrary, they are motivators for me to do better. But the fact that he voiced this opinion to me I was very shocked. But the fact is that many people think this way, they just don't say it, right? So that was my first actual experience realizing that there was gender bias. And that experience kind of propelled me to do a lot of things around women initiatives after that experience.
Go ahead.
Oh, yes, I want to add that, you know, a setting that is repetitively causing these experiences is the interview settings. You know, I recently had a similar experience in an interview where I found myself answering the same question over and over again. I kind of almost ran out of words and expressions and evidence to show my capability, because I found myself responding to the same questions over and over again. And actually, one of the men in the panel actually asked me, you know, if I would have, and mind you, this is a work that I've been doing for the last 12 years of my life, and thankfully I've been very successful at it. But still, I had to kind of continuously sell or oversell my capability. And I have my capability doubted on how I looked, right? So having my capability of doing field work based on how I look, I showed up with heels and lipstick, and suddenly I'm doubted if I have the capability to do something that I've been doing for the last 12 years of my life. So it's really something to be very mindful of and to challenge every time that we have a chance and an opportunity to.
This reminds me of how, you know, as you guys are talking, like, how do I challenge it? So, you know, in my brand, I purposely make sure that I wear dresses at all times. And the idea that for you to be a boss lady, you have to have pants on. I ensure that every time I show up at any conference or any time I'm about to speak or do an event, I have a dress on, so that I embrace my femininity, so that people see me as that powerful woman within my
within who I am and as I stand. That's what came up for me. Dr. Yaravona, Yaravona, right? Yes. Pronouncing it right. It's all about pronunciation and owning that language that we have. Tell me, what I would like to ask you specifically as we talk about experiencing gender bias or breaking it, you have a particular situation that both you and your husband are dentists.
Exactly.
So my question to you is, what have you experienced, if any, and opportunities that may have come your way as a cook, both you and your husband, where he benefited more than you did?
Absolutely. Yes. I have to say, my parents have also the same profession. So I always thought, we're equal. Like I saw my parents, they were the same. They were pharmacists, they would work. I was like, okay, this, my mom has it, I'll have it. So it was funny because through dental school, I actually didn't see it until I was doing interviews for my specialty, right? And suddenly I got pregnant with my first child. So now it's a problem. Now I couldn't apply because I was pregnant, and my husband could. So he was able to get into a specialty. I had to wait a year to get, to apply and to get in. And it's funny, because in all my interviews, I was asked the same question, are you committed? Are you willing? Are you going to work after this? Because we don't want to waste an opportunity in someone that's not going to work. And my answer to all of them when they threw me that question, I was, very cutthroat. And I told them, I think you're talking about your wife and not about me. I am committed. I'm here because I want to do it. I'm not sure what, your other experience has been with people around you. But, and I told them the same story about my parents, and it is a battle every day because I have much more things that I have to do in my day that my husband does not have to do. But I'm willing to do it because, I want to be a dentist. I want to be, I want to be there for my patients. It's my passion. It's what I like to do. I don't see myself doing anything else. So it is a constant battle. And I see it, it's I don't want to blame my husband. It's not his fault. But it is society. It is a society. It is society. And I talk to my girls about it all the time. I think I'm stronger raising my girls than with my son because I know they need to, they need to excel themselves a little bit more because it's tough if you want to do it all. So that is definitely, yes, my experience.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And that leads us to our next question. So the question would be to Shermalin. Have you ever thought your gender has played a role in your missing out on a career opportunity, a promotion, or raise of any sort?
I could honestly say yes. I remember being interviewed for a role as a marketing manager within a company that was charged with the responsibility of building casinos around the island. And during that interview process, I kid you not, I was asked the same thing. Are you married? Do you have kids? How would that affect your ability to ensure that you work to the highest level, becoming efficient? And like you, I embrace my femininity. So I came to the interview with my heels, etc. So I said to the gentleman interviewing me then, just like you, I'm not sure what of women you've dealt with, but I have survived 8 years within a telecommunications industry, okay, that is predominantly male dominated. And guess what? I did an amazing job. And I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, because I'm very confident in my ability and the results that I had to achieve within 5 years that I did in 3 years. And I was taken aback because right off the bat, you understand, I knew that I did not want to associate myself with a company like that. But I was not going to let you have the last word. I am capable and I have my results to show. So I'm not going to allow you to deflate me and my ability. And, it's amazing that Fedora has introduced this word as passionate as being associated with women and so on. And I've never looked at it from that perspective. But you're right, because I remember during that interview, I was told, the previous managers have been very emotional, very passionate. I was like, really? But guess what? Me being emotional and leveraging my emotional intelligence is what contributed to me rallying an amazing team around me, okay, and allow us to excel beyond the expectations of the owners and the CEOs of the company that I worked with previously. So yes, I am emotional, but guess what? Emotional intelligence and being empathetic is what contributed to the company that I was working for at the time to become the leader in broadband. So I'm embracing it, and thank you for the opportunity. So, when we're placed in situations like that, we have to see how we have to leverage and know our value. You see, understanding your value and what you bring to the table is critical. It is critical in ensuring that nobody allows us to question our ability as women and our ability to deliver. We're not saying that we're better than men. No, we each embrace our uniqueness and as a woman, you understand? But don't question our ability to deliver because of the fact that we are women. So that was my experience.
Wow.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yes.
I do know that Dr. Yova has to leave, so I'm going to let her go and it will continue the conversation. But thank you so much for your time.
Yes, good to see you. Good to meet you.
Thank
you. Can I just say one thing as response to that? What Shermalin just said, and the conversation that we're having here regarding the interview process and the workplace, because a lot of these gender issues that we're talking about happens a lot in the workplace, right? And so I agree that we have a role to play, right, in terms of how do we ensure that these things are not being perpetuated on an ongoing basis as well. And we also, I'm also very mindful of the fact that because of gender bias means our male counterparts, you see, Glory Mar's husband doesn't get a chance to be an emotional father, to be a caring, attentive dad because of the society that says this person does that and it's not him. So he loses ability to be able to do so. Fedora's brother doesn't get to learn how to cook and how to nurture, how to do these things. Why? Because he is not allowed in the kitchen in such a way. So he loses, right, as well, right, in terms of this process. And this is why talking about gender and understanding gender impact is really, really is important, because it means we all losing in terms of this particular process. We want our men to really be raised and be able to show their feminine side, their nurturing side, and not necessarily be seen as weak or any other word that we are using to associate whether or not it's passionate. I'm fine with being passionate. I want to have passionate men as well, right? As part of that, right? As opposed to not. The other piece that I think is important for us, it means one of the things that I've realized in my leadership role is that we have a responsibility to do better by our own as well. The woman who shows up in interviewing with me, the women who are asking for certain things, undervalue and under-ask every single time. I'm a boss. My job is not to offer you the ceiling. My job is always to offer you the floor. That is what we do in corporate world. But your job is to recognize that you deserve the ceiling, that you deserve the stars, right? And so if somebody's not willing to give you the sky, right, because you deserve the stars on the sky, if they're not, you definitely don't deserve to sit on the floor, that you deserve to at least sit on a chair, right? Yes. And so it means for me over the last, I would say 30 years doing what I do, I recognize I actually have to show up and already offer my women colleagues the chair already.
Let me tell you, I am what you're saying, and I'm getting goosebumps. I came across this quote that you don't take the elevator to success, you take the chairs. And you know what? You take the stairs, sorry. This is wrong. You take the stairs, yes, but guess what? When you take that stairs, you build a table and you bring other women along with you. Those sisters that just don't know how to do it. What about those sisters who did their work? They did not take the elevator. They took the stairs, but they're at the top of the stairs and they're crushed. I started my mastermind this week, and it was heartbreaking to see women that have the doctorates and so on. And so their voice have been crushed and they just don't know how to use it. You understand? So they just need sisters, boss ladies like us, who've done it before. You understand? To show them the way. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping women. Take the stairs, build a table, and bring another sister to the table.
This is all about role playing. It's being the role model. You're talking about being the role model. So when you're you have your junior colleagues, for example, and you walk into a conference room and immediately they sit in the back, not at the table, but they sit at the chairs that are in the back of the room. This is when you show them, you take the middle chair in the conference room. All eyes on me, right? All eyes on me. There are conference rooms that sometimes are built in U-shape. You show them strategically where you need to sit. And trust me when I tell you, there have been times that I take my junior colleagues and Rochelle knows one of them, Mrs. Jones, Jonna Jones, who is just a baby rock star, where I've taken her from the back chair. What are you doing? Let's come sit next to me. And just show them the way. You put your boots on and you pave that way for them. It's so that seems small. It's those small transactions that you have with them day by day and how you interact with your senior male colleagues that has shown them the way. And I had the most beautiful letter from her when we finally promoted her into her position now that I'll keep forever. And to me, that has made my 38 years worth it.
And it shows, and it's definitely something that's, worth acknowledging. That this is where I think about this project that we're doing together, when I just mentioned earlier that I'm changing it to connection to collective, this is where it comes from. It's not individualized, it's a collective. It's us coming together as one and raising our voices to show others that you too have that voice. You too can stand on your truth. You too can show up authentically. You too have the power to become the leader that you're destined to be. But yet it takes us that are a little bit higher place to pull others with us and then make them understand that you have, and I will continue to be by your side to lead you through. And this is exactly what I'm hearing based on what you guys are saying. I want to give the mic to Martine because she's been sitting there very quietly listening. So, you have your experience with corporate world as well. Go ahead.
I do. And I have to tell you, I was nodding and smiling and clapping, both with everything that you guys are sharing. And Shermalin and Dr. Gilda, you guys brought up specific points that triggered things that I remember. Shermalin was talking about standing in our value, making sure that we know our value, right? So I have a big experience in the corporate world as a product manager, traveling to China and India and whatnot. And, us typically normally would not be in those positions. And so when I got to that point in my career, it was all eyes on me. How did she get there, right? And I'm not going to spend the time, but it was about value. And I remember specifically during my annual review with my vice president, a white man, sitting in his office, and we're having the conversation about my review. Mind you, I didn't get the promotion at the time. He said to me, "So Martine, where do you see yourself in 5 years?" I said, "You know where? Where you're sitting now, right now." And he looked at me like, did you just say that to me? I said, "Yes." You asked me, where do I see myself in 5 years? I'm telling you the answer. I see myself sitting at your desk. And he started laughing. And in my head, I'm like, I have a voice. I'm going to tell you the truth. And the thing about in my journey of corporation and what ended up happening to me, I still, believe in being dedicated to a corporation and whatnot. But it's important to understand when you're invested, at least for me, my experience was when I was looking at the board of directors, the higher up, there was no women at all. And for me, that was working hard, showing my value. I'm like, where am I going? Am I going to have a place at the table too, eventually? Right. So that made me question where to go, eventually, and move around and change companies and whatnot. But all that to say, not only as Caribbean women on top of it, okay, I've experienced in the corporate world, the fact that I'm a woman, the fact that I'm Caribbean, right? The fact that I'm a mother, the fact that I'm not married to a corporate man. He's a musician, and he's not the typical, oh, that's what your husband does kind of situation. Like, I've had to deal with that. And so that identity, and I changed, and I had to work hard to change the story and the script every time. I had to be the loudest. And I made sure, and I'm going to end with this, back to that value Shermalin mentioned, having that value. It's helping our other women, embrace who they are and their value, and knowing how to communicate that. I'll tell you, I've had several boardroom meetings where I worked in the back end, yet the man was the one presenting and doing and taking all the credits. And at one point in my career, I said, enough is enough. What can I present? I put in the work, right? So he didn't feel at the time that me as a woman, a Caribbean woman with an accent, would have the impact that he could have because he's a man and he's whatever, right? Gender bias, what we're talking about. So all in all is that, listen, this is the movement, and Rachel, the collective. This is why we are doing this, because there are so many women. I have a young girl. She's 16 years old. She's dealing with gender bias already, and she's going into college soon, and she's going to watch this. And so that's what I wanted to share.
Can I just say how inspiring and refreshing this conversation is, promoting the breaking of the bias, but also promoting the sameness. It's really, really important to promote that sameness. And it just made me think of how complex the problem is, but how intersectional the solution has to be for us to fix it. Right? When you're talking about breaking the bias, not only in the corporate world, but also in the rural areas. And me working in the child well-being promotion or the community development, it has me thinking about how can we kind of act to break the bias in parenting, break the bias in the way that we are addressing community development issues, break the bias in the ways that we're treating boys and including boys and educating boys. So all of these ideas are super, super important, because these little trends of, like when you asked the question earlier, Rachel, about how to define gender bias. I have little nieces and nephews, and I always try to simplify complex ideas with them. So I call it the girls wear dresses, the girls wear pink, and the boys wear blue trend. And it's really these ideas that have lasting effect on how children behave in the world, in the society, when they're perpetrated, in the way that they see also their peers, their sisters or their brothers or their cousins. So it's really, really important to think about this intersectionality that we're thinking about, but also the diversity of the problematic, and also the representation that Martine just mentioned. It's really, really important.
And I would add to that as well, the importance to really start the education, of it, and the awareness of it at home, right? The conversation needs to happen on our tables, in our social gatherings, in our dining tables, and those of, whenever, when we're driving our kids to school, some of us, or picking them up, or it has to start at home, leading into our community, and then leading into the rural and everything else, because the empowerment that's needed for these young girls, for them to feel that they belong, for them to feel that they have something to say, they have a voice, and to own that voice, and knowing that there's power, there's purpose behind it, there's a reason why it's being used, It's not being used to cause harm. It's being used to speak your truth and stand on it and demand to be seen as such. Is such a key piece, and it starts at home, then in our schools, in our communities, and in larger part. So it leads to the next question: how do we break it, right? How do we break gender bias?
Doing exactly what we're doing now. Exactly what we're doing now. Empowering other women. I was 40 when I actually considered the idea of mentorship, because a male counterpart of mine was, and I'm from the Caribbean, I'm from St. Lucia. So, culturally, you go to school, you get a good job and all of that. But my male counterpart was going on and on about, his mentor and what his mentor has been doing and all of that. And I was like, but wait, sis, you're missing out on something. You understand? If you want to take your career to the next level, you understand what are all the other leaders doing. And it took me getting redundant after building a brand, okay, for me to even consider this. And I was like, no, you understand? As a marketing lead, we focus as marketing leads on building the corporation brand and making them, and we neglect our personal brand. Okay, so I made a promise that not only would this not happen to me again, it would not happen to other women. And with my daughter and my son coming up, I need to lead by example and inspire for action, because that change requires a cultural revolution, and that revolution starts with us.
Yes. Well, I'm getting goosebumps.
I know, this is amazing. This conversation it gets me a little emotional, right? Because I'm raising 3 boys, and it's important for them to see their mom being powerful, being successful, and not in a traditional role, right? And we started eliminating very early on when they were growing up, the idea, certain things that they would say, you throw like a girl. And this weekend, and it's these things that we say and jest, but they really stay with you, right? This weekend, they had a soccer game. My middle son, he's 7, and they lost the game. And the kids were so devastated that a lot of them started crying. And I overheard one of the dads tell his son, stop crying. You're a boy. Stop crying. And listen, what it took for me not to say something to him about it, because we were just walking by. But I made it a point that when we got in the car, I explained to them, if you want to cry, you cry. If you're feeling an emotion, let yourself feel it. And it starts at home. And it doesn't just start with our girls. It starts with also our men and our boys, to show them that all these things that we're saying are for men or for women, it doesn't exist anymore. And I just wanted to make a point that what Dr. Shermalin said before was around being emotional, right? Have you noticed that in job descriptions now, most of them will say we want someone with emotional intelligence?
Yep.
Right? We didn't see that before. We weren't saying that. On the contrary, you were taught and you were brought up to hide your emotions. And now you're asking us to bring our emotions to work. They might be sorry for what they're asking, right? Because we're going to show up. But you're seeing the impact, and I think that it's women like us doing things like this, raising our kids the right way, that is contributing to the changes that we're seeing in our society right now, and especially in corporate America.
Well, ladies, this has been such an empowering conversation. We could stay here for hours, but that ends this particular segment. I appreciate each of your time. I don't need to say much for you to know the level of gratitude I have for you being here today and taking the time you have taken and participating and being part of the collective. Thank you so much. And then we're ending that particular session right now. And I thank you, and we'll stay in touch for further information pertaining to the broadcast of this event. So
thank you so much. Thank you, Rachel. I do think it's important, Rachel. Let me just say this one last word. I think that it is important that those people who are watching, gender issues is not a woman issue. Just like racism is not a Black people issue. Okay, let's be really clear about it. And so if in fact we want to address gender biases and gender issues, we have to shift societal issues. This is a system, a societal problem. And and because when we say we need to do it at home, we put it right back on the women at home to be able to, right? Because that's where we are at. This is a societal issue, and we all need to be committed and recognize that gender biases and gender issues affect all of us. It affects our boys, it affects our girls, it affects our trends as well. It affects its gender as well. And so addressing it requires that larger systemic at all levels for us to be able to be effective on it as well. So I don't put it on our sisters at all who are watching this to understand that we have a role to play in terms of addressing gender bias. We have enough, we've done enough, we are enough, we are enough. We are enough. Okay, so
we need to be comfortable about being uncomfortable and having those discussions.
Absolutely.
Yes. And and now we could keep it going. So and it's funny because you just said something, Marioli, that really resonated a lot, because I know that you agree with that, is the sense that we have to have the conversation, regardless of who's sitting on your right, on your left, or in front of you. Be okay and opening your mouth and having the conversation. And again, demand to be seen and open the conversation. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. Unless we have it, how else will we be able to have, to learn from it and do better? When you know better, you do better. So unless you have the conversation, you don't have the opportunity to do better. And don't be afraid to bring up the topic, as long as it's done respectfully, in a space to grow and learn.
Someone
We've
said
had
this.
a lot of these conversations.
Someone said this, have the grit. Someone said that.
Mm-hmm.
Be comfortable about being uncomfortable. And when you have grit,
yes,
you have no problem doing that. So
yeah, all kinds of grits,
agree.
Cheese grits, all kinds of grits.
Whatever grit you want to throw
kinds
in.
Of grits.
I'm gonna be
all kinds of Caribbean grits.
Agreed, ladies.
Oh, thank you again. Any other thoughts before we move to the next thing? Let's do our break the barrier sign. Marioli, we're waiting on you for that. Let's break the barrier sign. Let's do it. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for this conversation. Until next time.